Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is episode 91. If you're listening live, thank you for staying near. I've completely didn't realize and have my mic plugged in. So luckily I wasn't too deep in the episode. I was only 10 minutes in before Keita told me. So thank you, girl. So I'm going to go over what I was talking about. So if you're listening to this live, happy New Year's Eve. If you're not, happy New Year. We are at the end of 2020. Finally, this has been a crazy year. And I think we should all shout Jumanji once we hit 12 o'clock, because I think that's what is going on. I think Robin Williams may have got a trick on us. And I think he may have, because they did redo Jumanji now. So he may have been pissed off about it and decided to do Jumanji, told God to throw them in a game of Jumanji. So I think we need to shout out Jumanji at 12 o'clock, and maybe, the craziness that we went through this year won't happen in 2021. But one thing that I tried to do at the end of 2020 was I tried to eat the McRib sandwich, which is, I never ate the McRib sandwich. I had no desire to eat the McRib sandwich. Didn't think it would be good because I'm like, why would a rib sandwich from McDonald's be good? But I kept being told that it's a good sandwich or whatever. So I went and ordered it. And in true McDonald's style, I did not get the McRib sandwich. I actually got a Filet-O-Fish sandwich. So this is 2020, just hitting me all over again. That's fine. Maybe if I order the McRib sandwich tomorrow, I may have a better deal since it's 2021 at that point. But I'm so over this year, and I'm sure you're over this year as well. And hopefully next year we'll be laughing at this oh man, 2020 was such a crazy year. So, but the reason that I did this episode tonight was to talk about, this is part 2 of the tribute to Brodie Lee, aka Luke Harper, and to also go over the Wrestlebread Awards of who had the best year, who didn't have the best year. So thanks to everyone who put in their responses to the survey. And I'm going to mention who won the giveaway in a moment. But to go over what happened last night, it was such a beautiful show. And I hate the fact that it had to happen. Brodie's death really affected me. And me and him are a little close in age. It was very sudden. From what his wife has said, he got sick and it just went downhill very quickly. And, it's just one of them things that 2020 has been teaching us, that life is short, hug the ones you love a little harder. And the show was so beautifully done. And one of the things that I liked that happened, and I don't want to make this into an AEW or a WWE thing, because at the end of the day, this is all wrestling. And I love the fact that we all came together for this. And it just shows, the potential that the wrestling world has. We can all come together. We can all, like different things, but it's all under the umbrella of wrestling. Whenever someone who doesn't watch wrestling sits there and talk crap about wrestling, we all come together for it too. So let's just keep that going. But what I love that AEW did with their tribute is they concentrated on the family. I don't remember, tributes that were done before where, they concentrated on who passed away, but they also, concentrated on the family as well. And it was a very sad show, but I love the fact that they celebrated what Brodie represent. And I haven't cried so hard for a tribute show from like beginning to end since probably Eddie Guerrero. And there's been a lot of tribute shows since then, of course. But from like not only just tears coming to the eyes, but like definitely breaking down and crying. Like I don't think it's happened since Eddie Guerrero. But it was beautifully done. So I sat back, I watched the show really, to kind of like embraced everything that was going on. And one of the things that they started off, of course, was the 10 bell salute. They had the entire roster out there. And I didn't realize they have a big roster now. And, you see it on paper of who is in AEW. But to see it on the stage, that's a beautiful thing. Especially for the fact they started about what? Almost 2 years now? Yeah, they're 2 years old. And they have a massive roster. And I love the fact that the show had no type of storylines. They didn't do storylines or anything like that. They slightly did at the end, but it was all about Brodie and his family. And during the 10 bell count, like you see Miro, he was breaking down, seeing the wife and the kids out there, that got me because I didn't expect them to be out there. Normally when you see a tribute show, you don't see the family. Maybe the family is ringside or they're backstage or something, but not really front and center. So that got me, especially seeing Brodie Jr. wearing the suit like his dad and wearing a Dark Order mask. And then we started to get to the tributes, and we saw Jon Moxley, who talked about how he knew Brodie Lee for almost 10 years. And, you kind of forget the history that Brodie had with a lot of people, because, not only before AEW and WWE, but back when he was in the independents before then too. So Jon Moxley talked about how, he loved him like a brother and he would never forget him. And one of the biggest things that everyone talked about was how great of a dad he was. And that's one of the things that not really kind of forget, but kind of gets overlooked a lot when it comes to, people who have passed away, is that there's a kid who lost their dad. There's a wife that lost their husband, especially celebrity deaths. A lot of people go like, oh, people die every day. But it's like, no, there's friends who lost their best friends. There's kids who lost their dads. There's wife that lost their husbands, cousins, sister, brothers, it's not just like one death, you know what I mean? And I love the fact that the Dark Order was highlighted, even though they're quote unquote a heel team, they were highlighted as if they were like the face of the company, and that everyone wrestled their ass off with this Dynamite show. It was people who was pulling out moves I never seen them do before, and I love that. So we started off with Matt Hardy and a Private Party going against the Young Bucks and Colt Cabana. And as soon as the Dark Order came out and I saw how red his eyes were, I teared up for that. And that match was really good. Like, all the matches was really good. And the Colt Cabana got the pin, of course, but like I said, it was a good match. And then we go to, let me see. I didn't have this stuff written down, so I'm kind of going off the top of my head, but I'm also looking at Bleacher Report. Shout out to them for like the highlights and the matches that happened. After that, we got Darby, who also spoke about how he met Brodie, and Brodie, the one thing that was also said about Brodie is that even though he looks so damn intimidating, that he had like the biggest heart and he always wanted to help people. And Darby mentioned how, Brodie Lee helped him a lot, and he had no ego. He wanted to elevate everyone. And then we got the match of Luke Archer, Stu Grayson, and Evil Uno versus Eddie Kingston and Butcher and Blade. And oh my gosh, Lance Archer came out with the Luke Harper look, and Eddie Kingston grabbed the mic, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to make everyone cry. But then he got into heel mode and said that the Dark Order is nothing without them. But Lance Archer, oh my gosh. Like, I've seen him wrestle before, but he was pulling moves, like, not only that I'd never seen him do before, but a guy his size do before. There was a spot I forgot who it was. I think it was Butcher that he did this to, but he did the old school, but he did it further than what The Undertaker normally does. And he turned it into a damn moonsault. And I was like, what the hell? Like, where did this come from? Of course, you know, this match was also amazing as well. And Evil Uno, you know, showing off, and so was Stu as well. And I forgot who was with Brodie Lee, but kudos to him too. He was out there the whole time with Brodie Jr. and, you know, to kind of keep an eye out for him. And, you know, it was a very entertaining match. It was a nice touch and everything. And then there was more tributes from, I think it was I think it was Cash from FTR after that. And then we had the next match, which was the fucking tearjerker. Hangman Page, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver versus MJF, Santana Ortiz. First of all, John Silver. I love John Silver, and it was Brodie Lee who definitely helped, you know, as far as John Silver. I loved the interaction between him and Brodie Lee on Being the Elite. If you never saw the episodes of Being the Elite, definitely check them out. They did a tribute episode where they put together all the clips from Brodie Lee and John Silver, and definitely check out just that episode, and you'll see a snippet of what Brodie Lee and the Dark Order did with Being the Elite. They were so entertaining on that show that they pretty much took over it, because they were hilarious. And when Brodie Lee came over and he started to doing the Exalted One gimmick, I started to get Vince McMahon parody from him, and I didn't want him to be a straight up parody character, gimmick, because you kind of get locked in to, you know, just being a parody. But as time went on, he evolved from it, and he wasn't a parody, he was his own character, and he would, you know, curse them out and stuff like that, and he would celebrate with them, and it was such a good show. But that match with Hangman Page, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver, if you watch Being the Elite, you knew the little callback with the papers. Brodie Lee had this thing where he would roll up papers and he would throw it at mainly John Silver or Evil Uno, and they would sell it like they got hit by a chair. And seeing them with the papers, it kind of it brought tears to the eyes again. And then you saw Hangman Page with it, but they had a bit of a weird camera angle, so you didn't really see that he had the papers just yet. First of all, MJF had a Puerto Rican flag on his trunks, and there was the spot, MJF was cursing at the kid, at Brodie Jr. He put up his middle finger, took off the mask, and spit at him. Some people thought that was a little bit too far, and I felt as though that all that was just for the one spot for Brodie Jr. to participate in. Because one thing I did read was that Brodie Jr., or -1 that they keep calling him, he loves wrestling. And they said that when Brodie won the TNT Championship, his son slept with the title. And so he loved wrestling. So I would imagine that type of spot was approved by Brodie's wife. I think her name's Amanda. I may be wrong, but I think they definitely ran it through. For them to put on this type of a tribute show, I will find it very hard to believe they did this spot without the approval. And it was basically him being as much as of a heel so that they can do the spot with Brodie Jr., which was when MJF took off the mask. He pretended to spit on it, and Brodie Jr. pretended like he got hurt the way he like bent down, and he grabbed the kendo stick, bopped MJF on the head with it, and everybody cheered for Brodie Jr., and you could see the smile on his face. He's basically like becoming a little mini wrestler. He took out the bad guy and stuff like that. And MJF sold the Kindle stick, of course. And so I felt as though it was appropriate. And truthfully, I felt as though it was appropriate for that. Because it wouldn't make sense for Brodie Jr. to whop, MJF like that if MJF just kind of, whatever. So I was fine with it when Brodie Jr. hit MJF with the Kindle stick. I was completely fine with that. And everyone was cheering him on like it was the best thing ever, and he felt good. You could see the smile on his face. He like stuck out his tongue at one point, and so it was beautiful. And the match was so good. John Silver had pretty much a miniature size outfit that Brodie Lee had wore. I think it was during his last match, actually. I don't know if it was the dog collar match that he wore that for, or if it was for the title match, but definitely, and you saw they were wearing the long jackets that Brodie Lee would wear too. But yeah, John Silver, he rocked that match. I would say that was his best match that I've seen him. He was a rock star in that match, and that you can tell the effect that Brodie Lee had on him. And of course, John Silver was the one who got the pin. And before that happened, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Before that happened, Wardlow comes in and interfered. And next thing we know, we get Rowan, who comes out and interfered. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Rowan. And that was the end. I started boohoo crying. And my son was downstairs, so was the Hubs. The Hubs was watching along with me too. And my son was like, what's wrong? What's going on? So, he had to explain to him what was going on. And so we were crying because it was such a beautiful moment. I forgot for a second that Rowan was let go from WE. So I'm sitting here like, wow, they let him come over. And then I was like, wait, he got let go. So I thought that was beautiful, that he, did a cameo for, his brother. And John Silver got the pin. You could see him like double over. I started tearing up. I started crying again. Rowan comes back out, and he comes back out with a sign that says, "Goodbye for now, friend. I'll see you down the road." He starts crying. John Silver's crying. Alex Reynolds crying. You see Hangman's crying. I'm crying. Probably everyone in the audience crying. You're crying. That was a special moment. That was beautiful. And after that, I think it was one of the referees, I forgot who it was, talked about Brodie and mentioned that if there was a Mount Rushmore of wrestling dads, that Brodie should definitely be on there. And then Eddie Kingston did his tribute, and it was a beautiful tribute. And he mentioned how much he will miss Brodie. He said something that resonated with me. He said that he believed in me when, like, he said something like he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, or, he pushed me when, something like that. And he looked directly at the camera and he spoke to the kids. He said, he's not, your father isn't gone. As long as you are living and you are breathing, Brodie lives through you. And I thought that was beautiful. And then after that, we get the women's match. Anna Jay versus Tayconte versus Britt Baker and Penelope Ford. And you can see that Anna and Conti was tearing up, of course. And that was a good match. Normally, the women's matches aren't so good, but that match was a lot better. And I still can't wrap my head around the fact that Anna Jay doesn't have that much experience. I do remember they said when she had her match versus Hikaru Shida that was her 7th wrestling match, period. And she's very smooth in the ring. Like, I can't get over that. Because we see women who's been wrestling for years, and they look like such an amateur. But with Anna Jay, yeah, you know, there's a little bit here and there, but she's very smooth in the ring. Like, I can't get over that. But this was a good match as well. Of course, they got the, Anna got the win, and you see her tearing up, of course, doing the Dark Order hand sign as well. Nikki Bella. What do you mean by Nikki Bella? And then there was, then I think, who was it? Reva came out and tried to interfere in the match. And then I think Britt Baker attacked Anna Jay afterwards. And she, I think she called Tony into the ring, or Tony was, oh, okay. Yes. Good example, Keita. Nikki Bella, wrestling for years, and still, especially Brie Bella as well. Oh my gosh. Brie Bella versus Stephanie McMahon. Wow. Yeah. Or the feud between Nikki Bella and Brie Bella. Ooh, don't bring that garbage out of the dumpster. Yeah. Like Nikki Bella, like wrestling for years, and they're like so clunky in the ring and like sloppy in the ring and stuff like that. Now, granted, they weren't like as bad as it was when they first started, but like, yeah, it's still wrestling in the ring, and it's like still, it doesn't really get as good. It's not as good as Anna Jay was. So, like, definitely props to Anna Jay. I don't know what the hell she's doing. She probably should go on Twitch or do like a masterclass or something of what she does behind the scenes, because for you to only wrestle 7 matches and you're able to like get up there as far as wrestling skills, it's just like crazy. But Britt Baker did a little promo. She also did a reference to Brodie Lee's name in the indie scene. She mentioned Big Rig, and then she winked. Because I was waiting for what she's going to do as well. Because, I mean, people were being heels, but they still like did a little something for Brodie Lee. And then we got Thunder Rosa, who came out and attacked her as well. So that was a little bit of storyline. And then we get to the main event. And the main event match, I should say. And this was the match that Brodie Jr. had put together. Before that, Chris Jericho did a tribute as well, where he talked about him and Brodie when they were in Saudi Arabia together. And he mentioned like there was this mark in the ceiling, or this like dot or something in the ceiling, that annoyed the hell out of Chris Jericho. And I was like, well, I know how it feels when you look at a spot and you stare at it for so long. And it's like, what the hell is that? I don't know. You know, I didn't get annoyed by it or anything like that. It's just like, you just try to stare at it a little longer. And so Brodie comes in, he says, you know, what are you looking at? And he says, I'm trying to figure out what the hell that is on the ceiling. And Brodie says, it points to Mecca. And he's like, well, how you know that? And Brodie's like, well, everybody knows that. And so he was saying that to prove how smart that he was. And he mentioned how his dog, who hates everyone and barks at everyone, loves Brodie as well. So we get to the main event, which they mentioned that Brodie Jr. had put together, and it was Team Taz, which was Ricky Starks, he's fucking hilarious. I caught that Chris Jericho, who's on commentary the whole night, who was hilarious. He was hilarious as well. And he was talking with, I think it was Tony, I believe, or JR, who mentioned how Ricky Starks remind them of a young Dwayne Johnson. And I said, well, there you go. Like, the man got hell of a charisma, which is crazy. And I can't believe that, WWE didn't pick him up. But, I'm glad that he's with AEW, where he can definitely shine. He can definitely be the mini type of charisma, The Rock. But we also had Brian Cage. We had Powerhouse Hobbs, who kills me because he's now a heel. And I guess in order for him to be heel, since he's called Powerhouse Hobbs, he gotta fix his mouth so that he looks menacing. And I was cracking up every time he did it, because he did it not only during the entrance, but he did it when he got in the ring. He did it during the match and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, you could tell he practiced that face in the mirror, because he had the menacing look down pack. But we saw number 10 come out. We saw Orange Cassidy. And of course, Cody came out as well. I'm not going to mention the entrance, because I tend to get annoyed by that, but whatever. But they all came out, and they kind of like went a little bit storyline between Cody and number 10, because they mentioned how the Dark Order attacked him, and 10 and or Preston and Cody Rhodes was like staring off at each other, and they kept doing the slap on the back type of tag-ins. And there was a spot where Cody tried to tag in Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy was leaning up against the ropes like, I'm not fucking coming in. Like, I'm here, so I don't... He reminded me of, damn, the name skips me now. He was on the Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch. He reminds me of Marshawn Lynch, who sat there and kept saying, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I felt like Orange Cassidy was there so he doesn't get fined. But he did have that cool spot between him and Hobbs, where Hobbs wanted to do the power lock, and Orange Cassidy went to go for it and was reaching and was like, almost there. And he puts the hands in the pockets. So that was a cool exchange between the two of them. But I was hoping that Cody wouldn't like took over the match, because he is like the biggest face of the company. But number 10 definitely got in there and definitely had his time to shine. And of course they got the win. And then Team Taz got in there and started attacking each other. And then the lights go out. And then the lights come back on and Darby's music hits. And he comes out through the door, very similar to Jon Moxley. And he walks down and he's holding his skateboard. And then the lights go off again. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, what the hell's going on? I was expecting someone to debut or something like that. And then we get the snow, which I think is the coolest thing ever, especially since they're in Florida. And Sting comes out from the same door that Darby came from, and they stood together. And I was like, okay, I'm down for this. And they came to the ring, and that was the end of the segment. So I guess, they had to end it with a little bit of a storyline. I was wondering, like, if they was going to do something as far as with Brodie between Darby and Sting, but we didn't see that. So they think they went to break or something like that. And I noticed there was a lot of time. They mentioned it was going to be, a tribute for Brodie after that. Cody was in the ring and he started to talk about Brodie and how he was, he wrote down, what he was going to say, and he had a quote and basically saying how good of a person Brodie was and how he had a positive impact with everyone, and that You know, he affected so many people. He was a beautiful man and everything, and he loved every single person, you know, and every single person across multiple wrestling platforms loved Brodie. And then he, you know, said we're going to do a tribute, and that's when he introduced Brodie Lee. And as soon as he started doing that, I was like, oh shit, they're going to get the kid an entrance. And I was gone. I cried so hard for that part because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't. They gave Brodie Jr. Brodie Lee's entrance, and the wife came out along with number 10, and you saw he had the boots, stuff like that. That whole segment took me out, and I don't think there was a dry eye anywhere who was watching at all, because that was very sad. They sat the boots down. Tony Khan was out there as well, and they had Brodie stand there. It was a spotlight and everything, and Tony Khan came over. He had the TNT championship with him, and he mentioned how, you know, Brodie Lee was the best. It was the greatest TNT championship. He looked at Cody. He's like, no offense. Cody's like, none taken. And he said that that Brodie was the greatest TNT championship of all time. And he said, and to you, Brodie Jr., that you'll be the TNT champion for life. And I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And so a lot of people was confused about what that meant. And what that actually meant is that they decided to retire that design of the TNT championship. And they're coming up with a new design. So Darby didn't lose the TNT championship or anything like that. They decided to retire that design. So Brodie Jr. is actually is a TNT champion for life. And they're going to come out with a new design. And then they did a video package. The tears come back again. And I was a little shocked. They did use some photos, and you saw him with the Wyatt family. You saw him with Becky and everything. And it was a beautiful show. Definitely a beautiful show. And Brodie Lee will definitely be missed. I just can't believe that, you know, that he's gone. Like, he had so much potential. He definitely had so much potential. And it's going to be such a big ass void in AEW for what he has done. And what the past 9 months that he's been with AEW, it's going to be a big ass void. And I love the fact that they are taking care of the family. They actually signed Brodie Jr. a contract, and that when he gets older, they're going to take care of him. And a lot of people made the joke if they're still around. But it's just a gesture. You know, you can tell that he really loves wrestling. And one of the biggest, you know, things, one of the most difficult things to do as a wrestler, from what I've heard and read, is to break in to a major promotion. Of course, like WWE. But for Brodie to for Brodie Jr. to already be taken care of, I think that's beautiful. That they decided to not only to remember Brodie, but to remember his family as well. So I think that was a beautiful thing, and Brodie will definitely be missed. So let's get into the end of 2020, the Wrestlebread Awards, because 2020 is slowly coming to a close, and I cannot wait, even though I did not get my McRib sandwich. So I put out a poll for who was the best in WWE, AEW, and also did NXT as well, because I felt as though it's kind of not really fair to put NXT stars against WWE stars, because there were a lot of things that happened in WWE and in NXT. So going through for WWE, for Best Male Wrestler, nominees were Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, and The Fiend. And the winner is Drew McIntyre, who had an excellent year, winning the title. Of course, he started off 2020 by having one of the one of the biggest pops, I'll say the second biggest pop of Royal Rumble with the elimination of Brock Lesnar. That Royal Rumble was very beautifully done, definitely sucked us in to go along with the story, just for us to completely hate Brock Lesnar and to definitely cheer for Drew McIntyre when Brock Lesnar got eliminated. For Best Female Wrestler, nominees were Asuka, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Alexa Bliss, and Becky Lynch. And the winner is Sasha Banks, who had a great storyline over the summer, but with her and Bayley as the tag team champions. And of course, when Bayley, turned around and turned her back on Bayley, Sasha Banks went on to have one of the best matches at the Hell in a Cell when she had the Hell in a Cell match versus Bayley. So the person who needs to win a major title in 2021. Nominees were Bianca Belair, Naomi, Big E, Shayna Baszler, and Keith Lee, and the winner is Bianca Belair. I am a big fan of Bianca Belair. I was hesitant of her when she was NXT, as I felt as though she was like somewhat of a stereotypical type of character, but I love the fact that, especially in NXT, it was her ring skills that was magnified. The fact that she didn't grow up trying to train as a wrestler is like mind-blowing, especially for the things that she does in the ring. And she makes her own gear. Like, that's dedication. Like, she makes her gear from scratch, and I think she also makes her husband's jackets, if I'm not mistaken. Montez Ford. He said on one of the WrestleBed podcast episodes that she makes I think she made a jacket, or she makes all the jackets. So for worst match, nominees were men's Money in the Bank match, Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio eye for an eye match, Goldberg versus The Fiend at Super Showdown. I completely forgot that was this year. Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman, which was the swamp match at that horror show at Extreme Rules. And the men's, I said the men's Money in the Bank match twice. Okay, that was my fault. But the winner is the eye for the eye match. On paper, you would think it would be a good idea, but the execution was horribly wrong, especially with the cartoon-ass eye that we saw on Rey Mysterio. Kudos for Seth Rollins for actually throwing up, but all in all, it wasn't really a very good match, especially for what the talent that Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio have. It was just a shame that it was definitely overlooked because of that fucking stupid ass eye. Best moment of the year, the nominees were Becky Lynch announcing her pregnancy, Drew McIntyre eliminating Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble, Edge returning at the Royal Rumble, Undertaker's farewell, and Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship. And of course, the winner is Edge returning at the Royal Rumble. I mean, way to start off 2020 before it started to go immediately down the shithole. Edge coming back definitely shows to never give up, quoting John Cena there, to never give up. And who would have thought that when Edge went and gave us his retirement match and we were all crying, that he would eventually come back and go on to have him not only participate in the Royal Rumble, but to go on and have a match at WrestleMania. But Edge coming out, definitely best kept secret. I didn't hear any rumors that he was coming back. I found out afterwards that he did post a picture of his wrestling boots, and so that may have been out there, but definitely so happy to see him back. Best tag team or faction, nominees were The New Day, The Miz and John Morrison, Sasha Banks and Bayley, of course, before they split up, The Street Profits, and The Hurt Business. And the winner is The Street Profits. Definitely had such a great year since they call up. A lot of times the tag team division is not very strong in WWE, and they're normally a lot of tag teams are teams that were thrown together. And the fact that the Street Profits is an organic team, even though they were put together in NXT, the fact that they came onto the main roster and they had such a great year of winning the tag team titles, of course, and not just being the backstage hype men that they were at first. So kudos to Street Profits, who actually won a couple of Slammies as well. Best match of the year, the nominees were Edge and Randy Orton at Backlash, AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title. The men's Royal Rumble match, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series, Sasha Banks and Bayley, the Hell in a Cell match, and Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, Hell in a Cell match. And the winner is Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, the Hell in a Cell match. Now, Sasha Banks and Bayley was a very close second. Very, very close. But Roman Reigns and Jey Uso edges out because of the emotional element that match brought on. Who would have thought that we would be cheering and loving Roman Reigns, the tribal chief? And the ending was a little bit wonky, but the fact that Roman Reigns used Jimmy to get Jey Uso to quit was definitely chef's kiss. Missed opportunity of the year. Nominees were Shayna Baszler losing at WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley losing at WrestleMania, Bianca Belair losing at Survivor Series for Team SmackDown, Retribution debuting, and Mickie James losing against Asuka for the title. And the winner is Rhea Ripley losing at WrestleMania. Ever since Rhea Ripley lost at WrestleMania, she has definitely kind of went downwards. It really was no point for Charlotte Flair to win at WrestleMania. And of course, when the rumors came out, that was actually supposed to be a triple threat match with Bianca Belair added. And Rhea Ripley was actually supposed to win at WrestleMania, but then plans have changed, of course. It was no bueno. Definitely a missed opportunity to kind of put over the rising star. I mean, only thing that's left for Charlotte Flair to check off is to win the Money in the Bank. I don't know if she won a Royal Rumble yet. I don't think she has. Win a Royal Rumble, win Money in the Bank briefcase, and then beat her dad's record, because we all know that's what's going to eventually happen. If John Cena didn't do it, it'll definitely be his daughter that will break his record. So there's nothing that Charlotte had gained by getting that win. So now going into the NXT portion of the awards. Best Male Wrestler. Nominees were Johnny Gargano, Keith Lee, Adam Cole, Damian Priest, and Santos Escobar. The winner is Adam Cole. I mean, what more can you say about Adam Cole? It's freaking Adam Cole, baby. Undisputed Era had an excellent match, but of course, Adam Cole will go on to have plenty of matches during the year. And of course, he has a kick-ass Twitch stream as well. And he also is part of the party from Up, Up, Down, Down, if you don't check that out as well. Best Female Wrestler. For NXT, the nominees are Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, Shotzi Blackheart, Candice LeRae, and Dakota Kai. And the winner is Io Shirai. I mean, she's been killing the hell out of it. Who remembers her putting the damn trash can on her head as she jumps off the top of the War Games cage? I mean, oh yeah, Charlotte won the Royal Rumble this year. Completely forgot. I'm sitting here trying to go through my head of who won. Yes, Charlotte did win the Royal Rumble this year, Akita. So she checked that off. So yeah, now all that's left is for her to win the Money in the Bank briefcase then. And then that's probably what's going to happen next year. Because why not? And yeah, Charlotte is good. Charlotte does elevate the division, and she is pretty good when she's a heel. But it's like, damn, give people a chance. You have a lot of women on your division who can, how many times have we said, give Naomi a chance, give such and such a chance? Come on. So next is Best Tag Team or Faction. Nominees were Undisputed, Imperium, Kings of NXT, Breezango, and Legado del Fantasma. And the winner is, of course, the Undisputed Era. Who can't forget that kick-ass War Games match they had against the Kings of NXT? The Undisputed Era is nothing but War Games. They have participated pretty much in every War Games match. And it's not just it's the Undisputed Era. Each member of the Undisputed Era are really good. And the biggest thing that always gets me is Roderick Strong, because Roderick Strong, before he joined the Undisputed Era, wasn't really that popular when he was in the singles, when he was a singles competitor. But the moment he joined Undisputed Era, it was like his stock went up like 2,000%. He's very good in the Undisputed Era. And so Undisputed Era as a whole, definitely the best faction. I really hope they don't break up. I hope they don't go up to the main roster. I know that the thing is to go up to the main roster, but, people don't really think that well when it comes to storylines. Like, I believe that those fuckers will break up the Undisputed Era, split them. Half goes to Raw, half goes to SmackDown, and then they'll get into a faction with fucking Big Show or something like that, which will make no sense. Just like what they're doing with the Iconics. The Iconics were great together. But you split them apart. You put Peyton Royce in a tag team, which makes no damn sense at all. So let them stay in NXT. Best match of the year. Nominees were Io Shirai versus Sasha Banks at the Great American Bash, Charlotte versus Io Shirai versus Rhea Ripley at In Your House, The Undisputed Era versus the Kings of NXT at War Games, and Finn Balor versus Kyle O'Reilly at TakeOver 31. And the winner, of course, is the Undisputed Era versus the Kings of NXT at War Games. Who would have thought that fucking Pat McAfee, a damn punter, can sit there and pull out the spots that he did? I'm completely surprised because he really didn't have to. Normally, celebrities don't really go too much over the top when it comes to spots like these. They definitely avoid doing any type of cage or street fight type of matches. And he went through a table. He jumped off the top of the cage at one point. And then, of course, the thing that pissed off a lot of people is him kicking out of the Panama Sunrise, which I still don't understand. And I think NXT, I'm hoping that NXT just don't blow that over, because Adam Cole has won championships with that move, and for the damn punter, kick out of it, with what he always keeps saying, his 2 weeks of training, that makes no sense. Next category is Best Entrance. Nominees are Karrion Kross, Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Io Shirai, and Shotzi Blackheart. And the winner is Karrion Kross. Every time he has his entrance, it makes me want to, go complete golf just so I can, be Scarlett and, do the fall and pray and, the best entrance ever. And I cannot fucking wait for when the fans are there. And the fans probably will know all the words by that point. And especially when they have the fans back and they start doing the special takeover entrances that they used to do. And if they ever put him on the main roster and they keep him the same, I hope they keep him the same. That entrance for WrestleMania? What? I mean, that's a long path. I mean, he's pulling Undertaker's type stuff, but oh my gosh, I can only imagine how big that type of entrance is. Next to go to the main roster, nominees are Damian Priest, Bronson Reed, Undisputed Era, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, and of course the winner would be the Undisputed Era. The Undisputed Era has been very dominant in NXT, but at a certain point there's not that much that they can do. I really wish that WWE will just stop playing games. Make NXT the third brand, because they already have their own developmental, their different developmental with Progress, I think it's called, and they're thinking about putting out a second show that would be more developmental anyway. I mean, NXT is no longer developmental when they put on a live 2-hour show every week, and now they're up against AEW, so can't really call it developmental. That's a third brand. So I think they should just make it a third brand. Whenever they do the draft, you can draft people to go to NXT or stuff like that. But then again, if they make it a third brand, they probably would give control more to Vince McMahon than it would Triple H. So let's keep it at developmental for now. So going into AEW Best Male Wrestler, Nominees are Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin, and Orange Cassidy. And the winner is Kenny Omega. The storyline that Kenny Omega has went through for 2020, I would say that's what put him up against Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, I would say half of 2019, half of 2020, definitely 2019. You can even argue the same thing with Chris Jericho. But Kenny Omega's story started with him teaming up with Hangman Page, them going through this weird split when they you can feel the tension. They break up, and then Kenny goes a complete 180 and becomes the cleaner, and now he is the champion. And on top of that, he done went to Impact, and he's just like on top of the game. This is the Kenny Omega that we all been waiting for since AEW has started. And now that, he took himself through this long road, reason being because he wanted everyone else to get their time to shine, which I'm all for that. So everyone got their time to shine. Now it's time for him to carry the torch. And, the fact that, the people who held the title have been previously with WWE, but now they kind of starting to get their own names into it. Yes, Kenny Omega was known, in New Japan, but there are a lot of people in the U.S., especially people who really kept to WWE, who don't really know who Kenny Omega is. And, us people who know Kenny Omega is like, oh my gosh, it's Kenny Omega. And I always felt that Kenny Omega was at like 50% of what he is when he's in New Japan. And now that he has gotten the title and he is now the cleaner, I think we're going to see him all the way. Maybe not 100%, because I always say it's very hard to do the strong style, the stiff type of wrestling that a lot of people from New Japan are known for in the U.S., because it's very hard-hitting, and not a lot of wrestlers can really adapt to that style. And I always say that's why, Asuka, Nakamura, all those type of wrestlers, they always feel like they're not what they're used to be. And I always say that's the reason why. Best Female Wrestler. Nominees are Britt Baker, Penelope Ford, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, Anna Jay, and Chris Statlander. And the winner is, of course, Britt Baker. Britt Baker is definitely a lot better as a heel than she was as a face. Of course, not really like 5-star matches, of course, but I definitely appreciate what she has done. Even when she got injured, when she had the bloody nose, people really loved that. They put that on a shirt, of course. But the fact that she took that and kind of made her turn herself into the role model, and she has Reba, and she was giving out, she was doing a lot of vignettes where she was talking about teaching people how to become a role model, and she has the thing with Tony Schiavone, and I think like that definitely helped out the women's division. Now, of course, that doesn't really mean much when you're not doing it in the ring, especially when you're not promoting your damn champion and not having her stand ringside, like she on the side or something like that. Actually put her in the ring. But I'm hoping with Thunder Rosa, especially Thunder Rosa, having this feud with Britt Baker will definitely help out the women's division. For some reason, AEW don't really put as much attention in their women's division as they do a lot of the other divisions, but I'm hoping 2021 will change that. Fingers crossed, especially in that you got fucking Thunder Rosa. Use her and use her well. Best Tag Team. Nominees are Private Party, Young Bucks, FTR, Lucha Bros, and Butcher and the Blade. And this was a close one, but the winner is FTR. FTR coming over to AEW, everyone definitely so happy for them, because in WWE they were definitely used so wrong with the Uzi Hot segment, with the parody segment, especially once they left, when they talked about what Vince had planned for them to do. Definitely happy that they are with AEW now. Very happy that they're actually being used with their talent, especially from what we've seen in NXT. And the sad thing is that if people didn't see them in NXT, we wouldn't have known what they had, what they had all along. If they had started off on the main roster and we saw them the way that they were, what a lot of the casuals know them as, we, oh my gosh, we would have never knew that that FTR could put on fucking 5-star matches the way they did with the Young Bucks, And the Young Bucks could have definitely been, best tag team of 2020. But I felt as though FTR definitely elevated the tag team division when they got there, especially when they kind of was teaming up with the Young Bucks, and they slowly started to go to going against them as well. But FTR definitely showing the tag team division, what tag team wrestling is all about. Is it's a very cool redemption story, especially what they went through on the main roster in WWE. Best match nominees are Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page at Revolution, Jon Moxley versus MJF at All Out, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at Full Gear, Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa at All Out, and the Young Bucks versus FTR at Full Gear. And the winner is Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at Full Gear. Definitely a very good match. You saw a lot more hard hitting. Kenny Omega was definitely wrestling his style. Hangman Page was right there with him. And they definitely did the storyline of the two people who used to be friends, used to be in a tag team, who went all out to get a chance to get a shot at the AEW championship. And we definitely started to see a lot of peaks of the cleaner at that point. But this was definitely a turn to see how good not only Kenny Omega is, but how good Hangman Page is. And Hangman Page is definitely one of those people who can definitely get a run at the championship next year. Next up is Best Faction. The nominees are Inner Circle, Dark Order, SCU, Jurassic Express, The Elite, and Best Friends. And the winner is Inner Circle. Jurassic Express had a very good year, but for the past couple of months, they had fallen off. And the fans definitely was a big reason for it. Luchasaurus definitely, of course. But a lot, for the past couple of months, the Jurassic Express hasn't been as dominating as the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle, every single member, maybe except for Jake Hager, definitely had their time to shine. The fact that Sammy Guevara, the path that he went through as far as from when he first came to AEW to now, A+, especially them when, the whole issue with MJF joining, we had the damn song and dance to MJF and Chris Jericho has had, and they had the segment where they went to Vegas. But the Inner Circle is definitely one of the best heel factions, I would say, in wrestling right now. I think I'm going to stand by that. I can't think of a heel faction between WWE and AEW. And I would even throw in Impact there that can do what the Inner Circle does. And it's very hard to have a faction because, a lot of times you have the one person who's like the biggest star and then everybody else is just everybody. But each member of the Inner Circle definitely have their strengths. Next up is the person who needs to win the AEW Championship in 2021. So the nominees are Darby Allin, Hangman Page, Luchasaurus, Eddie Kingston. I had Brodie Lee on here, of course. This was before he had passed away. And MJF. And the winner is MJF. Brodie definitely could have got, Brodie could have definitely been number one, but Brodie did have the TNT championship, and he definitely showed what he can do with the TNT championship. And I'm very happy that, we got to see that. We got to see the dominance with the TNT championship. Had he had joined AEW a lot sooner, if he was able to get let go of his contract when he asked for it and then was able to go to AEW, we probably would have been talking about him as AEW champion, truthfully. Darby Allin, of course, very popular, but I feel as though Darby Allin is, starting to get that climb right now where he's getting more known, especially now that we have Sting. Sting being aligned with Darby, that's going to shoot Darby's popularity to the moon, of course. That's going to put Darby Allin over. And I always say that AEW really needs to cultivate their own names. I don't want them to turn to WCW-like, where the top names is all former WWE people. But what I do like that AEW did differently than what WCW does is that when they come over to AEW, they're different than when they were in WWE. So people aren't riding the same gimmick throughout. We kind of saw it with Zack Ryder. When Zack Ryder came over to AEW, he kind of was the same. He had the same look and everything, only the name changed. And he's with the roster, if I'm mistaken. He's still with the roster, but it doesn't really work. So that's why I appreciate it when we got Jon Moxley, we got Brodie Lee, we got a different Chris Jericho than what we had in WWE, but Chris Jericho is an exception. That man has evolved into so many different gimmicks, it's just crazy. But I feel as though MJF winning the AEW championship, the type of heelish promos, the things that he can do, especially on social media, to kind of he knows how to piss people off. He knows how to push buttons. He knows how to get people mad. And when you're a good heel, the one thing you want to do is get people mad. Because when people get mad, they will talk about you. They'll tweet about you. They'll, have podcasts talking about you. They'll tell their friends about you and everything like that. And the person who you feud against definitely will become a bigger baby face. Who can forget when it was him versus Cody Rhodes, that betrayal. That feud was definitely really good as well. And that goes to show what MJF has. Now, I wanted it to be his time this year when he was going against Jon Moxley. Maybe they just didn't have everything lined up just yet, especially since it was, leading up to Jon Moxley losing to Kenny Omega. But I feel as though MJF's time is coming soon. See, next up is Best Moment of the Year. Nominees are Sting arriving in AEW, Darby Allin winning the TNT Championship, Sammy Guevara getting hit by the golf cart, Cody Rhodes doing a moonsault off the top of the steel cage during the steel cage match, and Matt Hardy joining AEW. And of course, the winner is Sting arriving in AEW. And there was a lot of back and forth with people comparing Sting coming to AEW versus Goldberg coming to WWE. But it feels so different with Sting coming in, because Sting coming into AEW is to help, not to do self-promotion, if that makes sense. Goldberg coming back to WWE, he said he did it so his son could see him wrestle. And if I'm not mistaken, it's for his son to see him as champ as well. Pretty much almost every time he has come back is for him to be dominant against someone. And I feel as though it's the reverse with Sting. Sting coming into AEW, he's there to help out. I mean, we've seen what he's doing as far as with Darby with the tribute show. It wasn't Sting, coming out by himself. If this was Goldberg, Goldberg probably would have sat there and fucking shoulder bumped Darby's, get the fuck out of my way, kid, or you're next, or whatever the fuck he likes to say. But with Sting, I feel as though Sting is there to help out. Because, at a certain point of your career, you just kind of give it up, you know? You got to work on the next generation. And that was something that Undertaker has said as well. He actually wanted Roman Reigns to be the one to break the streak because he felt as though Roman Reigns was the one who would gain more from it versus Brock Lesnar. But at this stage, it's about keeping wrestling alive. You got to do that with people who are, who are there, the workers, not yourself. Even though there is talks that Sting will probably get in the ring. I think maybe in a tag team match with Darby or something. But I can't really come at his skills because we don't know. We don't know what Sting's going to do. If Sting stinks up the joint, I'll come back to this mic and talk about it. But I'm going to give Sting a little bit of hope. We give him a chance. Maybe we'll be blown away or something. Maybe he'll just come in there, do a leg drop, and just tag Darby back in. Who knows? And then finally, what the F was that moment? The nominees are Matt Sydal, botching in his debut, the Nightmare Collective, Casino Royale match, the Mimosa Mayhem match, and the Broken Rules match. And of course, the winner is Matt botching in his debut. When he came out, I was very hyped because I was like, oh, it's Evan Bourne. I can't wait for him to start flipping off. He climbed up to the top. We all held on with bated breath. We all was ready. People were probably rubbing their hands together like, oh shit. Someone probably pointed to their friend. Yo, you gotta watch this. Oh man, he's about to kill it. You don't know who this is? Watch this. And then his ass flipped off and he fell down. And then we all looked very stupid, especially those who, saw who he was and, within the time from him coming out, the climbing the rope, started to inform their friend or someone like, oh snap, look, you gotta watch this. Oh man, he was so good in WWE. And that's what happened. And kudos to AEW. They tried to explain it away on Being the Elite that Michael Nakazawa had put baby oil on it because he wasn't part of the Battle Royal. Kudos to them to try to explain it off. But not everybody watches Being the Elite, so people are still walking around thinking, that is a complete ass botch. Of course, it appeared on Botchamania. But yeah, and he can never live that down, no matter what. So kudos to Matt for getting the what the F was that moment. And that is it for all of the awards for this year. This is the first time I did this NFV Awards. Definitely had a lot of fun, looking back into all the moments of 2020. Moments that I completely forgot about. Moments that I forgot that happened in 2020. And like I said, it's been a very crazy year. And with this Wrestlebread Awards, I also had a giveaway, and you had to submit your answer as far as who was your pick as far as who had the best 2020. And I did a drawing, and Kyle Jofo had won the $25 gift card. He just has to choose if he wants AEW or WWE. And he is actually the host of Jofo in the Ring, so check out that podcast as well. And congratulations to you, Kyle. And I will be sending you over a $25 gift card to either AEW or WWE. And speaking of that, AEW had put out a t-shirt that had said Exalted in Heaven. It was a tribute to Brodie Lee. And the proceeds from that goes to the family. And I went and brought one. So, because I think that is a beautiful thing to do. So, kudos to, AEW for such a beautiful tribute show. Very sad, but beautiful, beautiful nevertheless. I'm very happy that they are taking care of the family. Because that is someone who that's a loss of income, to be truthful. But definitely gone way too soon. And speaking of which, I'm glad that Bruce Mitch, I forgot his name, Bruce whatever, he actually left Twitter. I mentioned in the last episode that he put out this horrible article speculating that Brodie Lee had passed away from COVID and wanted, felt as though that it was a public hazard or some crap like that. The widow, Amanda, came out with a story, I think it was on Instagram, basically explaining her side of things, that she wished it was COVID because that would at least explain what the hell happened to Brodie, and mentioned how, some type of journalist, quote unquote, but whatever. He's not a journalist. I don't say things like this, but I'm glad he's gone off of social media. He continued to stand by his article with no sources, no evidence or anything like that. You're not a journalist. I don't care how long he's been in the game. You're not a journalist. Journalism 101 is always have a source and you state facts, not opinions. I don't know who wronged him, if he tried to be a writer for AEW or something like that and they turned him down. And that's why he's just so much of a hard ass for this whole story, but fuck that guy. So that's the end. That's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the people who are listening to me live, especially Kita, who kept fact-checking me. Thank you so much. Let me give some shout-outs as I go to eventually eat this Filet-O-Fish sandwich that I did not want at all. Still a little upset that I didn't get my McChicken sandwich. So, because I was like, I could talk about the McChicken sandwich when I get on the podcast. I could actually tell you guys how it tastes as, someone who ate it for the first time. But nope, we cannot do that. So shout out to Julian and Rob Bass from the Wrestlebread podcast, Kita and Jay from the Kita and Jay show, Chris from We Talk Next podcast, which is featured on the Kita and Jay show, Nando and Larry from Half K podcast, Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling, and my boys over at Powerbomb Jitsu. So coming up next week, I'll be back live on Tuesday with the recap for Raw and SmackDown. And I'll also be talking about the previews for AEW Dynamite and NXT. AEW Dynamite decided, of course, to push back their holiday special week because of their tribute show for Brodie Lee. And it's a stacked card next week. NXT also doing their holiday special as well. So it is a battle of the heart of the holiday specials. But I'm very happy that, even though this is such a tragic death, that we were able to all come together, as a wrestling community. And I just hope we just continue to do that. Even though it won't happen, come next week, everybody will be arguing about ratings and all this other stuff. But let's just enjoy the fact there are two companies who's fighting to put on a good show. Let's just enjoy that. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDE Talks, and follow the podcast as well, which is featured on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. I actually started TikTok as well. You can find me on TikTok at Jaydee Talks. Only did one TikTok. I've been a stalker on TikTok for like the past 6 months since the pandemic, and I decided to do a TikTok. So I'm on TikTok. Only did one video, so don't follow me and expect me to have 10 videos on there. Just a little slow. I'm trying to learn TikTok. I'm at that age now where some things just gotta be explained to me. I gotta Google a few things of recording on TikTok. It's not as simple as, point and shoot like Vine or something like that. If we're talking about MySpace, something like that, I know I'm really going far back on you guys. I would have had it down. But fortunately, we're not talking about MySpace. But leave a review. Let me know your thoughts and everything. Happy New Year. Let's all say Jumanji at the end of 2020 so we won't have to go through this for another year. Thanks, Kita, anytime. Happy New Year to you. Be safe. Be safe, everyone. And until next time, guys, peace.